All of you text your roll numbers. Once again, I'm repeating. Text your roll numbers. Those who didn't get. I think most of you have left the meeting after joining the class. And text your roll numbers. Once again, I'm repeating. Those who didn't text your roll number yet. Yeah, I'm giving attendance only for those who text me their roll numbers here. So you will get attendance only if you text your roll number here. Otherwise, you will not get. Please remember this. Dhanush. Dhanush. Dhanush, are you there? You can speak, Dhanush. Mr. Dhanush, you're taking so much time to respond, man. Why you're taking so much time to respond? But you are so irregular to the classes I am observing from the beginning. As you have attended, what is the reason? Hmm. So, but you have missed right all the classwork. So you can watch on YouTube. Is what I am saying. I have texted or I have posted the links of YouTube videos. So you go through them, and otherwise you'll not understand some of the topics. Okay. Okay. So good morning to all of you. So let us start today's session. So in the previous class, we have seen regular expressions, how to use regular expressions to create patterns and use them to validate user data entered in the form, right? So we have used regular expressions there to validate a form data. So this validation, it can be done on both sides, that is on server side as well as on client side. To perform validation on the client side, we have to use JavaScript, or to perform validation on the server side, we are going to use server side scripting language. We are going to learn them from the third unit onwards. So after this unit is completed, you have in second unit completely based on a single technology called XML, Extensible Markup Language. So once that is completed, then we are going to start from third unit onwards, the PHP. From there, you're going to see server-side scripting. So let us not discuss about server-side scripting now. So let us confine ourselves to JavaScript as of now, so because we are yet to cover some more topics in JavaScript. Then only we can wind up. See, one important point I want to tell you. I'm not teaching you theoretically by mentioning each and every topic in the syllabus. Theoretically, I'm not giving you the definition and then uh, giving the syntax for it and then give a small example program, which is not much practical. So if I give, so what will happen is the syllabus will be covered as per the syllabus. You can by heart them and you can get marks in the exam. But practical knowledge will not be improved for you. So what I'm doing is I'm going in a hands-on manner. So every topic, how to use it in a real-time application, I'm showing it to you with an example program. So in the program directly itself, there itself, I'm mentioning the all the topics which we are supposed to use. Say for example, selectors, CSS, how to use them, where to use them, and all. JavaScript, even in this case, today's or previous topics, we have JavaScript. I've shown you how to use an alert, how to use a confirm box, how to use a prompt box practically, right? So without theoretically saying pop-up box, keeping a heading as pop-up boxes, and then pop-up boxes are so and so, like this, like this. I'm not giving any theoretical things, right? So I'll text you a PDF document for web technology subject. So in that you will find all the topics, even those which are not in your syllabus also you'll find there in that PDF. But you confine for exams, for exam purpose, you just prepare from that PDF document. Uh, Whatever topics are there in your syllabus, only those topics you can confine. Out of your interest, you can go beyond the topics and learn the other concepts also. It is up to you. Uh, but my class to cover the syllabus fast as well as to make you practically more skilled than theoretically confining you to only for the sake of writing exams. You will get marks, but in an interview or somewhere when you go, when you are asked to write a small program, you will not be in a position to write the program. So that is the reason why I take this approach in this subject, not just now, even in the previous batches also I have taught the same subject for your seniors, super seniors, super seniors also. So the approach that I take in this subject, because the subject is vast in its syllabus, first of all, and if I go in a theoretical manner like that, uh, you'll have two disadvantages. One is you will not get the practical skills, first of all, and will not be able to cover the syllabus in time also. Two things, right? So it is no useful for you, even in point of examination point of view also, it will not be useful much for you if I go in that way. So that is the reason why directly I'm using the topics in the topic in a real-time program, how to use it. I'm taking the topic and showing you by writing a program. So that is what we are going to do even with the coming chapters also. But for the exam point of view, I'll provide you with that PDF. I didn't prepare that PDF. I got it somewhere. I don't have the habit of creating notebooks and giving to the students to prepare for the exams. I only insist students to read textbooks. So by reading the textbooks, you'll improve your understanding skills. After reading the textbook, you come to the class and listen the topic. Then it will improve your reading skills, understanding skills. So my concept way of teaching programming will be like I may tell you to read the topic and come for the class tomorrow from the textbook, and then when you read the topic and come the next day, I'm going to deal that topic practically if it is a programming subject, and if it is theoretical subject, I'll take some examples. Maybe it is a problematic subject or an algorithm. I'll take some examples and show you how to use it. Then, if any anything any point that you didn't understand by reading the concept in the textbook, you'll understand it when you listen to my class. So then you have to understand, you will understand that, so this particular sentence which you didn't understand the meaning of it properly, you might understand with my class, and then you can use that knowledge in the later part of the textbook when you're reading other topics also. So that is how I used to teach once. But unfortunately, even engineering colleges are also becoming like Sri Chaitanya and Narayana junior colleges, always spoon feeding the topic to you, giving a material or notebook to you, question banks and all. So actually I'm against all these things, but I'm being compelled to do so, so I'm doing so. But at least for this subject, for web technologies, let me be practical and implement my approach this way. Uh, so please, for exam point of view, you refer the PDF document. I have it in my Google Drive. I'll copy it to your drive that I share to you, drive link, so you can obtain it from there. You can download it and read for the examination point of view. So in the exam, the questions will be like write the syntax for so and so tag in HTML, paragraph tag or image tag or an anchor tag, frame set tag. You'll be asked to write the syntax in that way, right? So then what you need to do, you need to mention the tag name. Say for example, you're using anchor tag, so you must mention the anchor tag name. A href is equal to URL. Here you need to mention, then okay, here some text here. And after writing the syntax, you must explain what is this href, right? So at the bottom, the href attribute is used to mention the resource name with along with its file extension, right? And also file mentioned as the value of href will be opened whenever user clicks on text. This is how you need to give a brief explanation in one or two sentences about every tag that you are asked to write a syntax about. So here in this case, anchor tag has only one attribute, right? But most of the tags will have more than one attribute. So you need to explain about each and every attribute. What is its purpose? What are the possible values that you can give for this attribute? All these things you need to mention. So that is how you need to write the exam. Even in case of CSS also, if you are asked to write about selectors for an essay type answer, then you must say what is a selector, explain it briefly in 2 or 3 lines, then list out the different types of selectors, give the syntax for each and every selector, and an example program using that selector. Even for this anchor tag also, you are giving the syntax here, right? So after this, you give an example also. Equal to give here an example, home.html like this. And sometimes your page may not be in the same directory in which the current page is available. So in that case, you need to give the absolute path here. as a value of href. That also you have to mention. So this is how you need to write the answer for your exams. So apply the same formula, same concept for everything in this subject. When you're asked to give the syntax for something, then you have to explain it like that, right? So in JavaScript, what are pop-up boxes? So you can have to say what is a pop-up box. Pop-up box is a small window that will appear above the existing browser window, and it may contain a message and some buttons like OK or cancel buttons. So there are three types of pop-up boxes. One is alert box, second one is prompt box, and third one is confirm box. So you must explain the difference between all these three with an example. What happens when alert box is executed, what it displays, how many buttons you have, what happens when you click on that button, everything. So if you click on a OK button in a confirm box, it will return true. If you click on cancel button, it will return false. Similarly, if you take a prompt box, if you click on OK, whatever value you entered in the text field will be returned and it can be stored in a JavaScript variable. If you click on cancel, nothing will be returned. So in that way, null value will be returned. So that way, you need to explain each and everything clearly when you are asked in the exam with an example program. Always use an example program for every topic that is asked in your exam. So please remember this important point. I'm not going to repeat this again and again because I have to focus on from now onwards. Will not it will take so much time for us to deal with a simple topic. You're going to the most complex things that you're going to learn in this subject as units progress on from first unit to second unit and then third unit, fourth unit. So the complexity will increase, right? So please keep this point in your mind and act accordingly. Fine. So let us continue with the next topic in JavaScript. I was telling you about something called objects. JavaScript is an object-based language, right? These objects can be two types. One is predefined objects. One is user-defined objects. I don't know whether user-defined objects is part of your syllabus because your syllabus has been changed from this year. You are following a new regulation. You are following a new regulation from this academic year onwards. That is, you are the first batch to follow this new regulation. Your R18 regulation, right? So syllabus has been modified to some extent. I don't know whether user-defined objects is part of your syllabus or not, but definitely predefined objects will be there, I guess. So I'll start with predefined objects, and then if it is there in your syllabus and if time permits us, then I'll explain you how to create user-defined objects also. But most of the times in JavaScript, we'll be using predefined objects in many real-time applications. And already we have used one such predefined object. Let me mention array that we have used to create an array. This is an object. Array is an object. If you put a parenthesis open and close here, then this is a constructor. The constructor for that object. Just like in Java, class has two types of members. First one is instance variables and methods. Right? Java, we class has two types of members. The variables, they are nothing but data. Methods, they are nothing but operations. Just like in Java, every class has two types. members, namely variables and methods. JavaScript objects are associated with properties. Properties are similar to variables. Java functions, they are same as methods in Java. So you know what is an object now in JavaScript. We'll not have something called classes in JavaScript. Instead, directly we'll have objects. Every object will be associated with some properties and functions. So you need to know the list of properties and functions that are associated with these objects. Then you can directly call them using that object name dot the function name or the property name, whatever it is. So how do you invoke a member of the class in Java? You create an object for the class, right? So this is how you create a object in Java. So class name followed by object name equal to new operator and then nothing but constructor. Is nothing but the constructor of the class. So this will be same as this name. The only thing is additionally you will have parentheses at the end, open and close. And these constructors can be parameterized constructor or default constructor. So if it is a default constructor, then these parentheses will be empty. And if it is parameterized constructors, then instead of being empty, they'll be having some type of variables or numeric values or string values or whatever it is, whatever type of parameter you're going to pass. So that type of variables or values will be there as parameters, each one separated by a comma. So this is a syntax, right? So we'll use here also the same syntax which is there after the assignment operator, that is new operator and the constructor name and the ending with a semicolon. This will be same from here till here. But before this, instead of object name also will be same. We'll have an object name. Instead of class name, we'll have var keyword. Right? So here we'll have var object name equal to class name. This we can say object name instead of because we don't have class. We refer to this constructor with the name of the object. Right? So that is the case even when we used arrays. So we have used a var keyword, then we have given a name for that array, right? Then is equal to new operator, then we have used the constructor method here. So the constructor will be having the same name as that of object. If it is in Java, it will have same name as that of the class name. But because this JavaScript doesn't have the concept of classes, so this constructor will have same name as that of the object name. Right, so that is the only difference. Meaning everything will be same as you did in Java, invoking the methods or functions or accessing the variables that are associated with the object. We'll use the same syntax: object name dot uh, property name or object name dot function name. And also remember the naming convention. So Java follows a naming convention. So I don't know whether you know it or not. So do you know the naming convention in Java? Someone please respond. Any one of you, please respond at least with a message. Hi Krishna, no. Anyone else? Sainath, no. Nishit, Nishit, Yuva, Venkatesh, Neeraj, Saumya, Rachel, Simrita, are you all there? Okay, fine. See, Java programming language follows a naming convention. The same naming convention is also adopted for JavaScript. So what is that naming convention is? I guess I have given this naming convention when I was teaching you Python. But if you don't remember, let me wind it up within a short while. Fine. See, you have classes, then you have objects. Let us not go to objects first. You have methods, then variables, then objects, interfaces. So all these are concepts that you learned in Java, right? But let us not discuss about interfaces because we don't have interfaces in JavaScript. We'll have methods which are called as functions, variables which are called as properties, and objects. They are called as objects itself. But we don't even have classes. But let me tell you, because the same naming convention that we follow for classes in Java, it is followed for objects in JavaScript. So in Java, uh, classes will follow a naming convention in such a way that if you have a name, if you are giving a name for a class, the class names will, if they have a single word, then the first letter of that word will be beginning with a capital letter. Then, if it is having multiple words, then each word will begin with the capital letter. So, you know what is this case called as? I'll tell you. See, for example, you have seen some exception handling mechanism or something. Then, if you have seen, must have seen arithmetic exception like this. There is a class called arithmetic exception class. Look at this class name. This is a predefined class. So how many words are there? This is one word, arithmetic, and second word is exception, right? So in both these words, the first letter is capital, right? So this is the convention we follow in Java for classes, and for methods, the method names. If they are having multiple words, the first word will be in all lowercase letters, and the remaining words will begin with the capital letter, right? Maybe you must have seen uh, parse integer method. It is there in JavaScript as well. Right? So this is a parse integer method defined in Java's integer class. Integer class. So look at this method name. It has two words. The first word is parse, and second word is integer. The first word is in all lowercase letters, but the second word is with beginning with a capital letter. Even if there is a third word also, even the third word also will begin with a capital letter. Except the first word, all the remaining words will begin with a capital letter. Okay, and variables also follow the same naming convention that we follow for methods. Variable names are also, but for user-defined classes and methods, it is not mandatory to follow them. Predefined classes and methods, variables, objects, they'll definitely follow this convention. And if you follow the same convention when you're creating your own classes, your own methods, your own variables and objects, there also if you follow this convention, then somewhere after some time if you are looking at a program and somewhere you find a particular word, by looking at its naming convention, you can understand that whether it is a name of a method or an object or a class, what it is. So we can understand easily with that convention, and that's the reason why that naming convention is imposed in Java for all the predefined classes, methods, objects, interfaces, and all. But for user defined, it is up to the user whether he is going to follow that convention or not. Same is the case even in JavaScript. Uh, all the predefined objects and functions on properties, they'll follow this naming convention. But coming to the user defined variables, objects and classes, sorry, classes will not be there. We'll follow our own convention. It is up to us whether we follow it or not. Because JavaScript does not have these classes, it has only methods and variables. So the naming convention that we follow in Java is same even in JavaScript also. Variables also is same. But coming to objects, objects in Java will be always in smaller case letters, lowercase letters. Package names also will be in lowercase letters. But coming to JavaScript, JavaScript does not have classes, right? Instead, you will directly have objects. So objects in JavaScript will follow the naming convention that we have for classes in Java. So whatever convention you have for classes in Java, the same naming convention we adopt it for objects in JavaScript. Instead of using the uh, naming convention of objects in Java, we replace it with the naming convention of classes in Java in JavaScript. So that is the reason why the array object has capital letter A, right? Because it adopts the naming convention of classes in Java. Okay, so this is the naming convention you need to follow in JavaScript. So let me remove this. So instead of that, you'll have only objects directly. So you'll have, I think this is called as some case. It has some name. Methods have camel case letters. I hope you understood what is camel case. This is camel case. First word will be in small letters and the remaining words will begin with a capital letter. This will, I think this is Pascal case. Objects will follow Pascal case letters. If you have some time, you Google what is Pascal case letters, then you will know what it is. Even camel case also. This is camel case. Yes, I guess. I don't exactly remember what is that case called as. But if you can Google these two cases, camel case and Pascal case, then you will get the answer for it. Fine. So now that you understood this one, so let me start with predefined objects in JavaScript, right? So let us start with predefined objects in JavaScript. So already you have seen you have used array object. So let me list out the most commonly used predefined objects in JavaScript. First one is array. And when also we have already used reg regular expression. In the previous class already we have seen these two objects. And then the third one is date object. Now uh, per object have an object. Right. First, even strings are also can be considered as variables or objects. So let me tell you one important thing. For each of these predefined object, as I told you, every object in JavaScript will be associated with some properties and functions, right? So even this array object also will have some predefined functions associated with it. Even regular expression also will have, date also will have, number also will have, and boolean also will have some predefined functions. But we are not going to explore all these functions in our syllabus, because if I have to explore for every object, it will take at least 2 classes, because I have to go through each and every function first theoretically and then show you with an example program using that functions. So there will be a number of functions and many functions. So it will be difficult to deal it in the class, but they are very easy. You can easily understand, right? So like in Python, how the functions are very easy to understand. Even JavaScript functions associated with these objects also will be very easy. In the previous class, when we were dealing with regular expressions, we have used a function called match function, right? That way, you'll have functions for date object, number object, boolean object also, right? So first, let me complete this number and boolean objects because they're very simple. We'll have a brief discussion about that, and then we'll wind up this number and boolean objects and then go for date. But all the predefined functions that are associated with these number, boolean, and date, even the date objects, I'm giving it to as an assignment to go through because I'm providing you with the material to PDF. So you can go through that, or else you can refer Google also. You can refer to any online tutorial to get the list of all the functions associated with that objects and the purpose of those functions. For example, number object has a random function. Random function, it is used to generate a random number. So we'll have in that way some functions associated with this number. Even boolean also will have some functions. Very few functions will be there for boolean, but for number there will be many. Okay, so generally in JavaScript, numbers how they are represented is directly you use a var keyword and create a variable like a find some value 10 like this. Then this is called as a number, right? So this variable is storing a number. Alternatively, you can create a number in the form of an object also. So you can use a var keyword. You can use the same a is equal to do operator, just like you have done for arrays. We have done in 2 ways, right? Creating arrays. So the same way, you can use number object like this. Function the number say 10 here inside this. So now what is this a now? It is an object. It is not a simple variable. It is a JavaScript object which stores value 10. And this is simple variable. This is simple variable which holds a primitive value and integer value 10, right? So you can use any of this, but we don't normally use this object representation for numbers. We directly use variables and store numbers in those variables in the form of a primitive variable like this. Primitive variable in the sense any variable which stores integer, floating point, a double value, or a character value. They are called as primitive values, primitive variables, because they store values which are of primitive data types. Primitive data types include integers, floating points, and characters. These aren't strings. They are called as primitive data types. So if you can create any data type by combining any of these or a different new data type, then they are not called as primitive data types. They are user-defined data types that you can see. You have a classification of data types. You must have learned about it in first year when you are learning C language, right? User-defined data types and primitive data types. There is a classification this. So that is the reason why I'm saying that this is a primitive variable because it stores a primitive data type. Either it is an integer or a floating point number or a character or a string. But if I create a structure, for example, in C language, the structure is created by combining structure can store different types of data, right? One of them may be an integer, one of them may be a character, the other one may be a floating point, and one more can be a double value. That way you can create a new data type. That is a derived data type, you can say. Fine. Okay, now uh, this is about number objects. So it is your task to uh, find out all the list out all the methods. You have methods like a round method. You must have seen this round method in Python also. PIL seal method, seal function, right? Floor function. These are some of examples of functions that are associated with this number object. So you know the purpose of round, seal, floor, all these things, right? So they are used to round up to the nearest integers. Floor means it goes to the nearest and the lowest value. Seal means it goes to the next value. Round means whichever is near, whether it is the lowest value or the highest value, whichever is near to that value, it will result. Then you also have absolute function ABS, right? And apart from this objects, you also have another one, math object also you have. So this ABS I think will be with associated with this math object. So All these are some of the examples of redefined functions associated with these objects, number and math objects. So please go through these functions. You will find them in any online tutorial. And for even the pi value, have a property called pi, which stores the pi value 3.14, that is 22 by 7, which is defined with this math object. So you'll know about these properties and functions associated with these objects if you go through that tutorial. Because if I have to deal them, they are very simple. You can learn it on your own. Let us not waste our time for this purpose because we have not yet completed the first unit. Already we have almost taken 15 classes. Fine. And still there is some other topics that we need to discuss, that is generating dynamic content, which we call as DHTML. DHTML. So this concept I need to spend at least 1 to 2 classes at least. That is the reason I'm going ahead fast. So this is how you can create a new object. And similarly, you can also create a Boolean object. Say you take b is equal to new Boolean. You can give either true or false here. The true or false. No need of using any single quote or double quote for them. Directly, you can mention true or false. So true and false, both these words are like keywords in JavaScript, right? And if you give any a like this here for number, it will not accept. It will generate an error. Not a number. A is not a number. So NaN is a keyword kind of a thing in JavaScript, which will be used to specify a non-number, non-numeric value. You have a function called is number or something, I think, associated with this object. So when you create an object or a variable like this, you can pass, you can call that function and pass that value to that function. Then it will tell you whether it is a number or not. If it is a number, it will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. So that way, you'll have some functions. Right? Even Boolean object also has some functions, but very few will be there when compared with number and math. Math and number will have more functions. Okay, fine. So uh, alternatively, if you are creating a variable, just like for a number, storing a number, you are creating a variable a is equal to 10 like this. Even for storing a Boolean value also, you can create where b is equal to false like this correctly. Okay? So this will be a primitive data type variable, but this one will be considered as an object. This is an object. So the difference between these two statements here is this b is an object and this b is a primitive variable. Similarly, between these two also, this is a primitive variable and this is an object. Okay, so let us go to this date object, because this date has many constructors. 4 different constructors are there. Uh, there are even functions also. That function also I'm going to give you as a task for you. But constructors, let me explain you because you need to understand the underlying meaning of those constructors. This date object has 4 constructors. So let me write a program and show it to you instead of explaining. Let me write the script here itself in the body section. Not using any function, directly I'm creating. I'm going to create D1 operator. I just created a data object here. I refresh. It will be displayed there because we didn't use any alert box or a document dot write here. So let me write document dot write function here. Object D1. The title bar, you got data object in JavaScript. Look at the output that is displayed on the screen. Monday, August 24, 2020, 11:32 a.m. 1 second. And the time is Indian Standard Time, which is 5.5 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time. Now, let me create another object, data object. Paste this one. We'll rename this one to D2. Of leaving this constructor empty, I'm going to give say 2019. I'm going to give 8. Run this. Let us use a break tag here, concatenated with break tag. Now look at the second one. Friday, September 6th, 2019, 15 hours, 9 minutes, 10 seconds, Greenwich Mean Time, 5.5 hours ahead, which is Indian Standard Time. In brackets, it is displayed. So let me change this to 7. It is Tuesday, August 2019. So what is the meaning of this one? Say this constructor receives how many parameters you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parameters are there. You can use 7 parameters. So out of these 7 parameters, the first parameter refers to the year, the second parameter refers to the month, third parameter refers to the day, right? Day in month. So whether it is 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, up to 31st. This is month. It is begin with 0, 0 to 11. And this is hours, time on hours. This is minutes, and this is seconds, and the seventh one is milliseconds. So altogether, 7 parameters you will have for this constructor, and out of the 7 parameters, the first parameter is a year. You can mention any year up to 2020, and then this is the month name. Month will take values from 0 to 11. 0 indicates January, 1 indicates February. So that is why when I gave 7 now here, even though the month name of August is 8, it is displaying 7 as August, right? I give 8, it has displayed September because month name will begin from 0 to 11. It will end at 11. So 11 is December. If I give 12, we do January. Okay. If I give 13, here, the values must be taken from 0. So if I give 0 here, then this will be January. Fine. So this is another constructor. So this is a default constructor or a parameterless constructor, which does not receive any parameter. So this object, what it does is, if you create an object like this, then this will be created uh, with a date which is same exactly matching with the time at which this object is created. So if this script is run at which time, 11:36 minutes, 11 hours 36 minutes on Monday, August 24th. So with whatever at whatever time the object has been created, that time will be stored in that object with the day in the week and month in a year and the day in the month, year also it will be displayed, and even the hours and minutes and seconds also will be displayed. Milliseconds will not be displayed. Right? So now here, if I give 1000 here as a value of a millisecond, clear what was the output you got? 10 seconds, right? 15 hours. That means afternoon 3 p.m. 3, 9, 10 seconds. This is the time as per our Indian Standard Time. Now, what is this time here? It is 3 p.m. 9 minutes and 10 seconds. If I give 1000 milliseconds, at the time it has changed to 11 seconds instead of 10. Why? Because 1000 milliseconds make 1 second. If it is 999, it will remain as 10. Right? So if we give more than 999, if I give say 2000, it will give how many seconds? Instead of 10, it will become 12 seconds. 12 seconds. Right? So what if I don't give this last parameter? Don't give the last parameter, then it will accept the first 6 and it will take the default value. Right? So you know in Python functions there is one type of function called a function with default parameters, functions with variable number of parameters you have, right? So the same way the concept works here even in JavaScript for constructors. If you don't mention the parameter for that particular value for the particular parameter, then the default value will be taken. So the default value will be taken as 0 here. If you give whatever value you give, that value will be taken. So if I give 10 here, it will take 10. So 10 milliseconds will not change the second something. If 1000 milliseconds happen, then the seconds will change to its next second. Okay. So one more thing, create another object where d is equal to, here I can give in the form of a string, a Sunday, first and current. What will happen? You look at the third date object. What is it displaying? Sunday, August 23rd, 2020. But time, because we didn't give, it is taken by default 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. You can also mention 2020, comma. After that, you can mention the time like say 11 colon 11 hours, say 20 minutes and say 5 seconds. Sunday, August 23rd, 2020, 11 hours, 20 minutes, 25 seconds. So look at how or observe how I gave the parameter string parameter to this constructor. This is only one parameter completely together, but this will be considered in the form of a string. So you can mention the day of a week from Sunday to uh, Saturday, any day you can mention. After that, give a space, mention the month name. After the month name, give a space and mention the day in the month from 1 to 31st, any day. After this is over, give a comma, mention the year, and after the year, give a comma. And to mention the time, use this format: hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. I didn't give milliseconds, right? But I gave only up to seconds. So 11 hours. After mentioning the hours, give a colon symbol. After the hours, after the colon, give the minutes, and again after minutes also give a colon symbol. Seconds. If you want milliseconds also, then you can give more colon symbol and mention the milliseconds. 1,000, but it will not take anything, right? Then if you mention 2,000, not change, fine. So only up to seconds you can mention, hours, minutes, and seconds. More thing I want to show you. Here, how many objects are created? 4 objects are created. One with a default constructor, second one with 1,000. This is one parameter only. Look at the output you got for this program for the second date object. Thursday, January 1st, 1970, 5:30 a.m. 1 second, in which mean time plus 5.5 hours ahead. So why did you get this one? Where did you get this output? This is the another type of constructor. So let me use this constructor here. Example, in our program that we are doing here itself, let me write it. The variable equal to new date value say 2000. Just this our own printed. So why the output is displayed as Thursday, January 1st, 1970? We are in 2020. We were not yet born in the year 1970, but it is showing 1970, 5:30 a.m. in the morning, 2 seconds. That 2 seconds also because I gave 2000 milliseconds, it is showing you that. So why this happens is because the JavaScript uh, will consider the time from 12 midnight 1969 plus 19. Here onwards, the time will be considered by default. Not just JavaScript, even in Java also you have a date class. I don't know whether you have gone through it or not. You have learned Java. So in util package, in java.util package, you have a class called date class. So that date class, even the JavaScript date class is also derived from the Java's date class. Okay, so it will be considering the time from midnight 12 December 31st. If it is midnight 12 this December 31st, it is nothing but 1970 January 1st, right? So from here it is going to count the milliseconds. So if you give 2 milliseconds make 1 second. Oh, sorry, 1000 milliseconds make a second. So if you are giving 2000 milliseconds, it is equivalent to 2 seconds. Right? So from there, 12 midnight 1969 December 31st, if 2000 milliseconds happen, then what will be the time? It will be exactly 12 a.m. right? 12 a.m. 2 seconds. It will not even 1 minute passed after 12 midnight 1969 December 31st. But because we are having a Indian Standard Time, which is 5.5 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time, so we'll get morning 5:30 a.m. After 5:30, how many seconds have passed? 2 seconds have passed, which is equivalent to 2000 milliseconds. That is why the date here is displaying on that day, January 1st. It was Thursday, year 1970. Because the time is morning 5:30 a.m. and how much time has passed? 2 milliseconds have passed from 5:30. If you are in Greenwich Mean Time, that is, if you are in Europe or somewhere in Western countries, it will show you exactly 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 2 seconds. Because we are following Indian Standard Time, India is ahead of Greenwich Mean Time by 5.5 hours. So our time will begin from 5:30 a.m. 1970 January 1st. Right? From there, if you give as parameter this constructor 2000, then it will display 2 seconds. Say instead of 2000, if I give 20,000, say refresh it. How many seconds? 20 seconds. Okay. If I give 2 lakhs milliseconds, it will be 3 minutes 20 seconds. Right. So this is how these 4 constructors work. The first constructor, default constructor, which does not have parameter, will give you the current time at whatever time you run this JavaScript. That time will be stored in this object d1. And the second constructor will create a date object with whatever 7 parameters you give here: the year name, the year number, and the month number, day number, then hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. 7 parameters you can pass. So with those 7 parameters, whatever 7 parameters you pass, the matching year and day, month, time will be stored in this object d2. And the third one, this will receive a string parameter in double quotes. Here also you can mention, like here how you do. Here also you can mention a particular day and time. But the difference is here you will pass all the date, year, month in the form of integers representation, 7 different parameters. But here you are going to pass uh, up to seconds, not milliseconds. You can pass only up to seconds, and you can mention the day in the week, month in the year, the day in that month, year, hours, uh, minutes, and seconds. In this format, you can specify, and that you must enclose it within double quotes as a string. So what do you understand from this? This constructor will receive a string parameter, and this will not receive any parameter, and this will receive integer parameters, but how many parameters it is going to receive? 7 parameters it is going to receive, and this will receive only one parameter, that is also integer parameter, and whatever value you give here, that will be considered in terms of milliseconds. If you give 2, then 2 milliseconds. If you give 10, 10 milliseconds. 1000 milliseconds. Because 1000 milliseconds make a second, if you give 2000, then it will be considered as 2 seconds have passed from midnight 31st of December 1969. Right? From there it will be counting. Because you are in India, your Indian time is 5.5 hours ahead of English time. It will start our time from 5:30 a.m. January 1st, 1970. From there it will be counting. So if you give 2000, then it will count 2 seconds from 5:30 a.m. 1970 January 1st. If you give 20,000, then 20 seconds. 2 lakhs, 3 minutes, 20 seconds, like that. Okay, so this is how you can use date object in JavaScript. We'll continue in the next class tomorrow. If you have texted your roll numbers, you can leave the class, or else you can text your roll number and leave.